Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Elevenses with the Reps at Diesel Bookstore. Thank you so much for joining us here on this very warm Wednesday. Every Wednesday we get together here in our safe little book space and we meet with our publishers' representatives and booksellers and authors, and we discuss all of the new, forthcoming, recently released titles that our professionals want you to know about and tell you more about so that you can, as you do every week, as I do every week, add to your to-be-read stack and order them from Diesel, to which end all of the books that we discussed today will be posted in the little chat area there. We'll have links to all of them, so you can go ahead and click on them later and order them from Diesel. And I will introduce the wonderful women we have here with us today. I love it when we have an all-woman Elevenses. It's my favorite. We rock. And I'm going to introduce them in a minute and we'll get started. But first, I do want to tell you very quickly about what is happening at the store at Diesel this week. We've got some really exciting events. We have, in fact, tonight at 6:30 p.m., we've got Kathryn Stockett. She's the author of The Help, and she is going to be at the store at 6:30 tonight discussing her new bestseller, The Calamity Club. So that's going to be a great event. And also with her, joining her in conversation, we'll have Gigi Levangie, who is a wonderful author in her own right. And so both of them will be at the store tonight. The 15th, we're in the middle of July already at 6:30 p.m. And then coming up on Sunday at 3 p.m., Elena Montes will be at the store discussing and signing Wishbones. And joining her in conversation, we will have Alexandra Lyon-Perlman, and she'll be joining Elena Montes at 3 p.m. on Sunday, the 19th. And talking about Wishbones. And then the last event I want to tell you about right now is happening on Tuesday, the 21st at 6:30 p.m. at the store. Evan Marks will be at the store discussing and signing Vesper. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 21st at 6:30 p.m. But that is not all of the events we have coming up. No. We have lots of fabulous summer events, and you can see them all on the website, dieselbookstore.com, at your leisure. But check it out. We've got a lot of great stuff happening. All right, let me introduce our wonderful reps who are with us today. We have Julia Callahan from Hachette joining us, Andrea Tetrick from PGW, and Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press. And very happy to see you all. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your picks today. And why don't we start with Andrea, since you're in my uppermost square over there?
Okay. The first book I'd like to discuss today is from McNally Editions, and that would be Elizabeth by Eric Romer, the great French New Wave director. And this is the first time that it has appeared in English translation. It was written in 1946, well before Romer's film career took off. He was also an early film critic, or a film critic early in his career, but he hadn't really, he wasn't known as an artist at this time. But the great thing about this book is that in many ways it precedes the tones, it establishes the tones and themes, and obsessions of his film cycle that is very well known, Six Moral Tales, with basically a concentration on verbal fencing, games of seduction, moral ambiguity via pressure. And it's set just outside of France during a summer that is right before World War II. So there is tension in the air, romance, young love, family breakdowns, ennui. So very French, yes, indeed. And it's just a beautiful novel. And it's so nice to see that McNally has brought this back. And we now have an English translation. And it was just very well reviewed in the New Yorker by Richard Brody. There's a great quote from that. Let me pull that up here. Romer's fame as a director sparks automatic curiosity about his novel, but Elizabeth is far more than a footnote. It would be a rewarding, exciting read, even if the identity of its author were unfamiliar. So there you go. You don't have to be a lover of his new wave films, but it is nice that there is that to bring, people to him. So a standalone novel here, Elizabeth, and with a beautiful, evocative cover.
I'm obsessed with that cover. I love it. It's really stunning. I really like the McNally. We talk about the McNally editions all the time. They're such handsome packages. I really like them with the French flaps and the gorgeous covers. And I had no idea he wrote fiction, Romer.
I knew. I was very shocked until the presentation.
Yeah.
At sales conference several months ago. It's just nice that his writing is being revived now, and
Yeah.
it stands the test of time. It was really nice
Right.
to see that.
Whole new audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really nice to see that review from the New Yorker.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrea. Patricia?
Yeah. Just looking at that cover, I'm thinking of those colors of the year. It looks like a color of the year, sort of perfect melon or something.
It
That
does.
beautiful color. I have a cheerful book that is just shipping in. It's called Cloudy with a Chance of Starships: How the Drake Equation Reveals the Odds of Life in the Cosmos. It's by Sven Rasmussen, and it is a book about the odds of life in the cosmos. It's very insightful, it's funny, and it's kind of a whirlwind tour of astrobiology, using as a guide the Drake equation, which is a 7-variable mathematical expression that calculates the number of civilizations in our galaxy that humans might potentially contact. Let me show you the Drake equation just to be sure that you are fully aware of its complexity, F standing for fraction. So the Drake equation was written on a blackboard in 1961 to a couple of people, and has now a sort of an obsession worldwide. Roddenberry presented it in his original arguments for a crazy new show called Star Trek. And in this equation, we go from macro to micro, rate at which new stars are born in the entire universe, fraction of stars that host planets, the number of those planets that could potentially host life, and the pathetically small fraction of habitable planets on which life evolves. So this is a truly galactic book. It covers space exploration, habitable planets, star formations, space stations, asteroid belts. It is an amusing tour of probability theory. It's quite slim and yet actually rather astonishing in how much it sets out to cover. And it is, of course, about UFOs, now declassified. So we are now calling them unidentified anomalous phenomena. I think it's quite an exciting and charming book. I think it has a lot of readership. People are fascinated by the potential for life afar. He takes on many a small quandary, even in a very small way. He, for example, thinks about the necessary elements that would be needed for life, saying we don't need to look any further than our own bodies. The acronym is SPONCH, SPONCH, sulfur, phosphorus, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and hydrogen. He takes us in so many directions that really we feel like we are overexercised. And he is full of kind of a joyful excitement about his subject. So Cloudy with a Chance of Starships, fun cover, fun reference for those of us who read that book as a child. And I'm enjoying the book.
Love this kind of book. I've picked up so many of these. They have these covers that draw you in. I'm interested in the multiverse. I'm interested in it. And some are easier than others to read. Secrets of the Multiverse was one I really, really wanted to get into. It wasn't so much about the multiverse, or I got into it eventually, but I mean, before that, it was like a full-on physics class. And so I was like, okay, man, I wish I had paid better attention and, in whatever class I had back in the day. But they're fascinating, and especially these kinds of. I'm so excited to see these like accessible science books that are for a general reader. It's very exciting to me to be able to dive in and not get it's not not feel stupid, like be able to to read them and understand them, and because you can get a lot out of it, so this sounds like that.
Yes, it certainly exaggerates how extraordinarily rare and marvelous it is that we exist at all.
Exactly. Let's hold on to that. Let's remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then if you watch a butterfly, again, I hate to come back to butterflies all the time, but if you watch a butterfly go from a caterpillar to, still trying to figure that one out, to a butterfly, I mean, I've spent hours at watching, but then you're
Well,
really like,
there was just a new article that said that the butterfly, of course, melts. The caterpillar melts and turns into this
yes,
butterfly,
absolutely
totally
dissolves.
dissolved.
Yes,
And the new research says that nevertheless, its memories as a caterpillar
yes,
exist in the butterfly.
I will vouch for that. It is true.
That's always awe-inspiring.
Yeah, thanks, Patricia.
I love weird small science facts.
No, they're really fascinating. Yeah, you can dive real deep on that one. Julia.
Okay. Well, my first book is a kid's book because I know Deborah loves them, but also this book is super duper special. It's called Story Rug, and it is by Sophie Blackall, who is a multiple time Caldecott medalist, and Phoebe Wahl does the illustrations. So that's like a little bit different. Usually Sophie Blackall illustrates her own books, and she has her books, her bestseller is Farmhouse and Hello Lighthouse. We also have one that If We Were Dogs or If I Was a Horse that came out. If We Were Dogs came out last year and was a huge bestseller for us at Christmas. But this one is this really beautiful story all about this class that is making a rag rug. So they're learning how to braid, and they make this, like, it's called a rag rug. So all these students bring in various kinds of rags from around their house, and they braid this together and make this rug, which then they use to tell stories on. And so it's this really lovely sort of community effort that this class is doing. There is a little bit of back matter about how to make something like this and how to braid scraps of cloth and make a rug out of them. But this is just a really beautiful story. I think one that is great for story times, is great for bedtime, and great for the classroom as well, about sort of how these kids make their own sort of space to tell stories to each other. So this is Story Rug. It is quite a lovely book. I really love the pair up of these two. I love Phoebe Wall's illustrations and Sophie Blackall's storytelling, and it's just a really special one. So this is Story Rug. Yeah.
Thanks for doing. I do appreciate the kids' books, Julia.
Yep.
And it's really nice. So Kristen does an amazing job every time she comes, but we don't have her that often. So it's really nice to have the kids' books. This is very special. It's a very special book. And I think your point about classroom aid is really well taken. I worked in several different grades, classes, but pre-K and kindergarten classes. And this is such a great kind of circle time book for that age group, So
Yeah.
I think, I think it'll be very effective there, as well as, just for the average reader. So
Agreed.
thanks, Julia.
Sure thing.
All right, Andrea, back to you.
Hey, number 2 for me is Someone to Cook For by Maiko Seo. And this is another book in translation, this time from the Japanese. And it comes to us by way of Europa Editions. I know that I do discuss Europa Editions titles a lot. And that is because those titles dovetail into the sensibility of the readership at Diesel. So here we are, yet another one, and very happy to be talking about this one. It's a perfect summer read. It's uplifting fiction about a young woman who, as a teenager, had 4 surnames, 2 mother figures, 3 father figures as she navigates the Japanese version of foster care. And these it sounds like a lot, but these parental figures cared for our heroine very well and took care of her and loved her. So that's good news. And as an adult, as she's gotten married, our protagonist goes in search of these parental figures to seek out their blessing for her new marriage. And as this happens and she's on this journey, she revisits her former lives in all of these homes with all the people that helped her along the way. and thereby comes to some reckonings of it, and then also, you know, has a deeper understanding about what family truly is. And as you can tell by the cover there's food involved, and as I said, it's a feel-good story. It's rather cozy, um, and I do think it is a comfort read, but it's got substance. And as the executive editor of Europa, Michael Reynolds, said, this is the type of book that will make your day a little better. And yes, we're down with that. We can all use a little bit of that at every turn.
Thanks, Andrea. This looks amazing, and you are right. We do talk about Europa a lot, and that's because Europa does amazing books. This is a little bit, it feels like kind of an unusual like plot I haven't seen from this, we have a lot of the Japanese translated fiction, and this is kind of a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Europa has a very strong Japanese in translation titles, but they are a bit edgier, indeed, than this. But this one's just they couldn't resist publishing this here. They just thought the writing was so great and the story's lovely. So
Yeah, that one's going to do really well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrea. Patricia, back to you.
Yeah, I have a new book from Island Press. Island Press recently joined Princeton, and it's wonderful to have them as such a wonderful partner. Our new book is David Helvarg's Forest of the Sea, The Remarkable Life and Imperiled Future of Kelp. Helvarg is a journalist, an ocean activist. He's tremendously energetic and exciting to read. He's founder of Blue Frontier and lives in Monterey. He's been a producer, done many documentaries, PBS, Discovery, author of 6 books about oceans, and a licensed private investigator, body surfer, and scuba diver. He's talking about kelp forests over 2.8 million square miles, indeed all the coastlines, absorbing carbon dioxide, generating oxygen, protecting us against storm fronts, and of course, sources of incredible research and ongoing discovery, but threatened by climate change, warming oceans, and just the general destructiveness of humans. So this is what's at stake if they disappear, and it also is full of world travel and excitement in different places. He looks at the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Prince William Sound and the demise and return of sea otters. He looks at the collapse of kelp forests in and around Fort Bragg, California, and also worldwide high temperatures in New Zealand, algal blooms in Qingdao, China. And I thought this was so interesting. He characterizes plastic pollution as a solidified, widespread oil spill. I thought that was a fascinating way of thinking about it. He brings up all sorts of interesting things, talking to indigenous Hawaiian and Yuki people and living off seaweed and songs for kelp. Takes on whether it is appropriate to decide which species live. Should we be destroying? He interviews people who think maybe we should not be destroying invasive species that are now surviving and interrupting whatever's going on. He talks about efforts to restore kelp beds in Baja California, in Fort Bragg, in the rainforest, in the Faroe Islands off Denmark. He's very, very strongly endorsed. This is just a roll call of protectors of the oceans, Ashlyn and Philippe Cousteau, saying he's dedicated his life to the protection of our precious blue planet. And what a deep dive this is into the fabulous world of imperiled kelp. Bill McKibben chimes in on an utterly fascinating book, and Carl Safina, who wrote Song for the Blue Ocean, on his devotion and attention and the possibility of solution. And finally, Ted Danson, who is such an activist, also a friend and supporter of this book. Covers a lot of places that are near us and feels sort of regional. It covers a blue planet that we live on, and it brings to mind something I knew less about, the vitality and importance of kelp forests, and like very similar in how we've come to understand coral reefs, how vital it is that we protect what we have and replenish what we have lost.
This book sounds fascinating. I'm sold for sure. Have you ever looked at kelp close up after it's recently been washed onto the beach and seen what's going on in there? It's fascinating. I just did recently, actually, the beach, and there was some really fresh, and I was like, that looks like an amazing salad right there on the beach. And
Yeah.
I got really in and took some pictures and looked at it, and I just, there's so much going on in there. It's amazing. Yeah, what a great book. Fascinating.
Beautiful
Right?
cover there too with the
Gorgeous
forest.
cover. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great writer. Had the opportunity to represent several of his titles with New World Library over the years.
Great.
Yeah, and he's a strong ocean advocate for sure.
Definitely.
That's his gig, and he's a great writer.
Excellent. Thanks, Patricia. Julia.
And I was a charter member of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which opened
Yeah.
in 1984, and I was born in 1983. So, I've been a member since I was 6 months old, and the kelp forest is my favorite thing to look at in that whole aquarium. So,
Very
but
cool.
That's cool.
yes, my book, I have another kid's book because we have some stellar kids books coming out. And this one is, I guess we do Halloween in July now. I did not make the rules, but that seems to be the going rate.
We're doing Halloween every week on
Yeah.
Elevenses for this entire month.
I
so
know, right?
far.
I think I brought one last week too. But this one is a really fun book. It comes out next week, and I brought it here because I know that the demand for it is much higher than we initially expected, and we expected good demand, but it's even higher. So we may run out of this before Halloween. So this is called The Bats on the Bus, and it is the best, the most fun kids story time book, of course, set along to the rhythm of the wheels on the bus. But, we have ghosts on the bus going boo, boo, boo. We have all sorts of fun Halloween creatures. There's vampires, there's witches, there's aforementioned bats, and they get on this bus and do their little Halloween things. The illustrations are absolutely delightful. And this is just a fun one. It's a fun one for story time. It is a fun one to get kids into the Halloween mood. And I just think an utter delight of a book. I had a great time selling it and reading it. And I just, every once in a while, one of those kids' books really grabs you as I'm reading through them all. And this is one of those. So this is The Bats on the Bus.
Really fun, and I can see how it will become and can become, that endless jingle that is just in your head forever, It's like like playing in your dreams, and Baby Shark did for a while.
Well,
But
and I
yeah,
love a
Wheels
book
on
that makes it a little easier on parents, that they don't have to make up a new song, that they can
Right.
hum a
Right.
tune that they may already know.
Yeah, hum a tune that they already know, but also, and they can add their own in there as well.
Exactly.
It's really fun when kids start coming up with their own lyrics and ideas for stuff like this as well. Anyway, super cute, and that we should absolutely stock up. You should stock up. You should have one of these. Just have the packet ready to go. But just Halloween all the time. Why not? I think it's a great idea.
It feels like Halloween all the time anyway, so let's at least make it fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Julia. All right. Andrew, you want to kick off our last round of the day?
Sure. I too have a children's book, and this is The Ice Cream Crocodile, and it's publishing this week. It's by Mariessa Dulac with fantastic, vibrant, clever, and funny illustrations by Rebecca Cobb. And this is from Faber and Faber Children's List. And they're one of our storied British publishers. And this is the story of Elvis the crocodile. And he dreams of performing in the circus, but has to overcome a very real obstacle, and that is having big, scary teeth. And if he's on stage, he's going to scare the circus goers, right? So even though he's really great on the trapeze, especially with that tail of his, he can catch anything. He can hold on to the trapeze, etc. And he's actually quite agile for a big green gator. But the folks who run the circus won't let him be in front and on stage, because they also need to collect ticket money from the circus goers. He's very upset about that. They say, perhaps, we have a new ice cream wagon, and if you hide and don't smile too big, it'll be okay if you sell ice cream for us. He goes home to talk to his dashed hopes with his parents. His mom gives him some excellent advice. He sleeps on it, and he realizes that he can do this. And so ends up, I wish I could, show you all the great illustrations here, but at the end, he ends up, Bunny Rabbit is his first customer, and he basically prepares the cone and then does a flip and like presents the cone to her. And he knows that he can still be a circus performer, just in a different way than he thought. And so it's a great educational message for kids, and it's really just also funny, and it's also rendered in beautiful rhyming verse. So a lot to love here, and the illustrations are detailed and bright, as I mentioned before, and it's going to be a great read aloud with a child because you're going to be pointing out stuff in every page. So this is a winner, the Ice Cream Crocodile.
This is so sweet. I love this. What a gorgeous book. Did you say if it's a hardcover, right, Andrea?
Yeah, that's I did not say, but it is a hardcover at $18.95, 32 pages.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Faber. They're one of my favorite publishers. I'm used to, when I was little, it was always Faber for some reason, and Puffin. Those were my Puffin books and Faber. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What an adorable book. Thank you for bringing a kids book, Andrea. I appreciate that. All right, Patricia.
Well, I thought I'd talk about two extraordinarily significant books which are coming out in paperback just now, and both of them kind of staggering. First is the classic I Ching. All of us grew up, of course, on the gray and yellow I Ching, with the foreword by Jung, edited and translated by Richard Wilhelm, which has really been considered the landmark translation, the one that works, the one we threw coins with, the one we tossed sticks with, the one mentioned by Bob Dylan, Philip Dick, John Cage, Octavio Paz. This was published in 1950 by the Bollingen Foundation, and with new material and Princeton in 1967. So it's been a long time coming as a paperback, which does not supplant the gray classic, but which is a new way to access this book. It does include a new foreword by Elliot Weinberger, which is quite wonderful, and which reminds us of how ancient a system of divination this is, its background obscured perhaps in the Bronze Age. And like many kinds of exquisite translation, it's incredibly mutable. There are many translations. In fact, I was reminded reading Weinberger of the truly wonderful new book by Arthur Z., Transient Worlds. Our poet laureate is here in Santa Fe, and this incredibly beautiful book is on translating from the Chinese. So Elliot Weinberger says, the I Ching is a text about change, whose words themselves are in a state of perpetual change or continual retranslation. It is a microcosmic universe that one can only enter through an act of chance, and where one finds answers that always seem to turn into questions. So if you have a question and want to go on a journey, I Ching is always available to you. And this beautiful new edition makes it maybe a little more portable. Maybe you need both. Our other translation is of the extremely mighty new translation of Capital by Karl Marx. This came out in 2024. It is an astoundingly large and impressive Marx for the 21st century, Paul North, and commentary by Paul Reiter. It was extraordinarily lauded on publication as an astounding achievement by China Mieville. No previous English version has featured such an erudite critical apparatus or exacting translation. New York Times, landmark translation, Wall Street Journal, restores a freshness. It's in a different league, and the commentary is extreme. So we have a new paperback, which will be shipping very shortly, and I think this will certainly dominate the text market and the approaches to Marx in our century. It's very exciting to have both of these coming out. I think both of them attesting to the power of truly powerful primary material and landmark books, which I'm excited to have on our list.
When I saw you were doing these two together, I thought, well, that is really a package, the I Ching.
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear Patricia tie these two together but wow, I didn't know that they'd not been in paperback. That's kind of amazing.
The I Ching, in fact, somewhat fought against a paperback. The cloth is a charismatic object.
Yeah.
And has enormous strength. But it's interesting to have something fresh. I love the Elliot Weinberger, and at the same time, I would champion keeping both titles in print. Well, of course, we would keep the cloth in print. The book. It's a wonderful pullouts, and it has that famous inner yellow binding, which I think
my mom had the I Ching when I was little, and that's how I first I was really young. Like 9.
I feel
10.
like I'm in the mom position.
Well, I mean, my mom had a lot of this kind of stuff. This is how I got introduced to a lot of this Gurdjieff and Ouspensky, and my mom had a lot of this stuff lying around. I was a bit young to be reading it, but I came back to it later. But it's fascinating, she had with her pennies and her sticks, and I started.
It's an exquisitely symmetric and beautiful system, and we can spend an awful lot of time thinking about the hexagrams. And the nature of a broken and a straight line and what you could do. It's quite. I've always been fascinated by it, and it always seems to have something.
Too young to appreciate the metaphoric nature of all of it. But you come back to it. I'm happy to hear it's coming out in paper. That's interesting. I'll have to
probably in the store that has come in. Yeah. Capital's not quite out yet, and the I Ching has shipped.
So I do believe that charismatic object is the phrase of the week. Thank you very much. I'm writing that down now. And also, I think you brought up Gurdjieff. It reminds me, one of his most interesting statements was, which ties into this I Ching discussion, is take the knowledge of the West and the wisdom of the East and see. So that pretty much ties it all up, right?
It does. It does. We'll have to have another Elevenses devoted entirely to this kind of thing. Thank you, Patricia. All right, Julia, want to bring it home for the day?
Yeah, I feel like, I was trying to do a little Dave impression here and do a cookbook at the last, but now we're in such a philosophical area. I feel like bringing it back to Chillies is maybe perhaps fits perfectly, or perhaps is absolutely wild. So you choose. But I have this great cookbook. It's called Chillies. It is about chilies and how to cook with chilies. And what I really like about this, these are a smaller trim size. So they're about the size of a regular hardcover book, like a 6x9 hardcover. They have a great little sprayed edge with just a nice design on it. But they break down. So they go chili by chili through all the chilies, give you great recipes for cooking with them, tips for how to use them. Patricia mentioned she's in Santa Fe, and I just was there a few weeks ago meeting with some accounts. And of course, New Mexico is the absolute promised land for chilies. But these are chilies of all kinds. So they do have the New Mexican red and green chilies, the hatch chilies, and the red chilies. And then also things like Calabrian chilies, pepperoncinis, and how to use all of these within cooking. And I think I don't know, for me, as I got more comfortable with cooking, these are the things that were sort of the scariest. I did burn myself trying to rehydrate chilies at one point. Burned myself pretty significantly trying to rehydrate chilies at one point. But so this is a great cookbook to have. I think it's a beautiful cookbook to have on the shelf, but a great cookbook to have if that's something that you're interested in, is how to use chilies more in your cooking. They're so good for you. They're so tasty. They make any dish sort of, enhance the profile of most dishes and any dish that they're in. And so yeah, this is just a great little, this is not the first of these it's not really single ingredient, but it kind of is. But this isn't the first of these kinds of cookbooks that we've done. We have a few others, but this is just really, I think, a really delightful cookbook, and one that I think is just great to reference on your shelf. So this is Chillies by Sophie Dupuis-Gaulier. Sorry about my French. Bad French. I'm very bad at that.
It's great. I think this is great. I love, I like the small trim size. It's like a reference book, as well as a cookbook. And I think that putting it in that smaller format kind of reinforces that idea when you're looking through it. And I do think that a chili book is great to have. It's a great reference because yeah, there it can be scary. I am nervous about chilies, and every time I would like to cook more with chilies and experiment more with chilies, but I really don't know, what am I doing with this chili? I once bought like a ghost pepper chips
Yikes.
that was new. They were like corn chips, but ghost pepper corn chips. And the produce guy like followed me with my chips, and he was like, "I need to talk to you about this. Like, this is not of like for amateur. Have you had them before? Because if you haven't, I suggest that maybe you don't buy them and start with something else." And then he had like a whole list of things that I was to have nearby when I ate it. And I was like, okay, I don't know about this. I did buy them, and I had exactly like a quarter of one chip, and that was it. So
Yeah, and
really.
I think what's really great about this book too is it's like, yes, there's the hot chili peppers, and it talks about how to work with those, but there's also plenty of chili peppers that are mild.
Right.
When we think of bell peppers or pepperoncinis, like I said, these
Right.
kinds of peppers that just add flavor in significant ways.
Poblano peppers are great,
Right.
and there's so many great recipes actually, and I would like to learn more. So you've absolutely sold me on the chili. I'm fascinated by chilies, but I also really like that you can approach it like, okay, I'm going to learn about chilies now, so I'm going to be informed.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, great cover too.
It
Absolutely.
is a great cover. Yeah. Well, quite the variety today. I'm what a wonderful collection as always. You all have really brought it, and I really appreciate, and I'm sure everybody watching today really appreciates the diversity of books. We've had a little bit of everything today. I have come to expect nothing less from all of you. You are fantastic, and I really appreciate you all being here today and doing such wonderful presentations. Andrea Tetrick from PGW, Julia Callahan from Hachette, and Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joey, behind the scenes with all of the putting up all the jackets and the links. Really appreciate you too, and appreciate everybody for tuning in this week. We'll be back again next week. We'll have more reps, we will have more books, and we will have more sidebars and rabbit holes to go down. So please come back and join us then. And in the meantime, everybody have a wonderful week and happy reading to you all. Thanks. Bye.